That's good.
Zahraa Elfouly, again, my apologies for that. Zahraa Elfouly is a program assistant with the World Health Organization. She's joining us from Egypt, and her presentation is the effect of intercultural communication on partnership and exchange. Zahraa is a program assistant and a UN volunteer at the World Health Organization. The current focus area at work includes public-private partnerships related to SG17, partnerships to achieve the goals of SG3, good health and well-being through regulatory risk and compliance, to uphold institutional regulation, establishing firm intergovernmental partnerships through using different project implementation modalities, including the empowerment of different private public institutions, and developing good practices in the public health and gender-based violence sectors. She specializes in law and pursues a master's degree in international public law. Zahraa, welcome to the floor.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you so much, Josephine. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you, and such an honor to have me have this presentation with you. I will share my screen. And as a start, I would like to reintroduce myself. I'm Zahraa Elfouly, a program assistant at WHO now. And for this, I will be having the corporate diplomacy and international business. I will be talking about intercultural dialogue and in public-private partnerships. And as an introduction, intercultural communication refers to the communication between people from two different cultures. And it also refers to the effects on communication behavior when different cultures interact together. Each particular culture has its own rules that governs human behavior and affect nature of perception and interpersonal relationships. Understanding the features of their own culture is realized in contact with people who are guided in their behavior by other cultural norms. The interaction of such kinds sometimes causes conflicts and demands. Intercultural communication can cause both positive and negative results, and the whole business of it could fall apart to poor communication ways or with which I experienced it before as well. So we have just my agenda, that's the introduction that I just had, and we will be talking about intercultural dialogue to business and partnerships, business and experience, conclusion. So for the subject introduction, we will be talking about the cultural awareness and intercultural communication, that it is the key for healthy partnerships, which is very important and crucial for the growth of the economy. And through my little research, I didn't have a really good time to make a good research, but while I did my small research, I found that we have 6 fundamental patterns to cultural differences. That if we worked on these, we will have a very good communication and a very good inclusive intercultural environment in the workplace. As the people from different cultural groups take on exciting challenge to work together, cultural values sometimes conflict. We can misunderstand each other and react in ways that can hinder what are otherwise promising partnerships. Oftentimes, we aren't aware that culture is acting upon us. Sometimes we are not even aware that we have cultural values or assumptions that are different from others. And I will be starting with one of these, the first 6 fundamental patterns, the different communication styles. See, the way people communicate varies widely between and even within cultures. One aspect of communication style is language usage across cultures. Some words and phrases are used in different ways. For example, even in countries that share the same language, like English language, meaning of yes varies from maybe I will consider it or definitely so. And another major aspect of communication style is the degree of importance given to nonverbal communication. The nonverbal communication includes not only facial expressions and gestures, it also involves seating arrangements, personal distance, and sense of time. For instance, in some cultures, raised voice could be taken as a sign of a fight, but in some other cultures, it could be a sign of exciting conversation between friends. Different attitudes is the second pattern here, different attitudes towards conflict. Some cultures view conflict as a positive thing, while others view it as something to be avoided. In fact, face-to-face meetings customarily are recommended as the way to work through whatever problems exist. In contrast, in many Eastern countries, open conflict is experienced as embarrassing or demeaning. A written exchange might be the favored means to address the conflict. Pattern is the different approaches to completing tasks. From culture to culture, there are different ways that people move toward completing their tasks in a certain job. When it comes to working together effectively on a task, cultures differ with respect to the importance placed on establishing relationships early in the collaboration. A case in point, Asian cultures, or this is how I experienced it, tends to attach more value to developing relations. Sorry, does this sound really bothers you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's an intrusion coming from your, I'm not sure where.
Yeah. So, okay. I was talking about completing tasks. So at case point, Asian cultures tend to attach more value to developing relationships at the beginning of a shared project, and more emphasis on task completion towards the end of the project. Whereas in comparison with European and Americans, European and American tend to focus immediately on the task at hand and let relationships develop as they work on the task. This does not mean that people from any one of these cultural backgrounds are more or less committed to completing the task or value relationships more or less. It means they just pursue them differently. And for the fourth pattern is different decision-making styles. The roles individuals play in decision-making vary widely from culture to culture. In some cultures, decisions are frequently delegated, and on other cultures, there are a strong value placed on holding decision-making responsibilities on oneself. For the fourth pattern, different attitudes towards disclosure. In some cultures, it's not appropriate to be frank about emotions, about the reasons behind a conflict or a misunderstanding, or about personal information. When in a conflict, it's important to be mindful that people may differ in what they feel comfortable revealing. The variations among cultures in attitudes towards disclosure is also sometimes to consider before you conclude that you have an accurate reading of the views, experiences, and goals of the people with whom you are working with. And for the last different approaches is a patterns, different approaches for knowing. Different cultures may prioritize different means and resources to acquire certain information. And the best practice here is to, instead of using one person's method, is like at work, or one employee's methods at work, this also may be an example to different work type or different ideas. It's important to be aware that they are all valid ideas here, and there are no right and no wrong. And the leadership here is to find a way that merges both ideas. This will lead to cooperative workplace and even better working results. Going to my next slide. Yeah, here are some statistics that I found. According to the Connected Culture report, 71% of those employees who said they were more productive feel well connected to their colleagues. And according to a McKinsey report, well-connected teams see a productivity increase of 20-25%. According to Gallup's State of the Global Workplace 2022 report, disengaged employees cost the world an unbelievable $7.8 trillion in lost productivity. And studies also show that employees who are engaged are 87% less likely to leave their organization. And this is very important because when you're trying to build your human capacity in partnerships in a certain agency, you have to make this environment for them that will lead them to be very engaged with each other, very well blade in the teams, so that you have a productive work. And for that, you will enhance the partnerships and the SDG for partnerships, which will grow the economy as a result. And I found a fun fact about this, which is the historical fact. So related to the analysis of Hiroshima and Nagasaki situation, the fault of translation of one word, a Japanese word, and the inabilities to spend more time on investigating the decisions led to the death of thousands of people. So miscommunication problems between United States and Japan led to the atomic bombs being dropped on 2 Japanese cities. These problems included the fact that the representatives of both countries used different languages and couldn't set the priorities in their words. Two parties couldn't understand that it was not enough to recognize personal needs and the needs of the opponents. It was more important to clarify what methods of communication could be more effective in their situations. And in general, the analysis of the situation between United States and Japan helps us to understand that even being smart and educated enough, people couldn't help but make a number of mistakes in their communication. Miscommunication is one of the main problems of people in the past and in the representatives of the modern world. Many current politicians could not talk to each other on a proper level. Therefore, wrong interpretations, unwillingness to wait and analyze, and the personal concerns promote miscommunication that leads to inappropriate decisions like the one made by the United States. And as a conclusion for this, there is a study by the Economist Intelligence Unit further illustrates how poor workplace communication can hurt the success of a workplace. So a failure to complete projects in 44% of cases, and low employee morale in 31% of cases, and missed performance goals in 25% of the cases, and lost sales in 18% of the cases. The similarity of people to each other creates favorable conditions for obtaining by a person new skills and abilities, improvement of existing ones, but on the other hand, the more differences in character, upbringing, education, and even culture in interacting partners, the more opportunities of the emergence of contradictions, and conflicts between them. Each participant of international contract realizes that knowledge of a foreign language is not enough for an effective intercultural mutual understanding. It is also necessary to know forms and means of cultural communication, standards and rules of foreign language, culture, the foundation of human psychology, to protect the possibility of misunderstanding between partners and avoid it. All of this draws attention to problems and communication. The major conditions of its effectiveness are mutual understanding, dialogue of cultures, intelligence, tolerance, and respect to the culture of partners in communication to their ideals and values. In my opinion, the intercultural communication is a very, very deep topic that we cannot include even in one book. If we wanted to understand every single action, we will have to go deep in history to understand from where did this action came from, because it definitely has a cultural difference in it. And even if we did that man action, we're always wrapped by emotions and psychological status, which we can only be controlled by values, the value of the agency and the value of the hired employees. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, Patricia. And this is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Zahraa, for that very interesting presentation and showing all of your linkages and how we get back to SDGs, as well as we have been mentioning all the cultural differences, etc. So thank you once more again. Please remember to post any questions you may have for Zahraa within the chat. I'm seeing one attendee who has their hand raised. Unfortunately, you cannot open your mic, so please place that question you have within the chat. And Agnes also has a question for you.
And thank you so much, Zahraa, for this wonderful presentation. This is an interdisciplinary analysis. And regarding intercultural communication styles, what is your experience concerning the differences between the communication styles of public and intergovernmental organizations, such as, for example, the WHO, or is there any? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agnes, for your question. Well, I think my experience started with like I had 3 years of work experience at the Korean Culture Center, which is an agency, cultural agency of the Korean Embassy in Egypt. And it wasn't a lot of it wasn't a big team. It was just like 3 senior Koreans and like 5 Egyptians. We were working together on projects, cultural projects, to spend that fund that comes from Korea, South Korea, to spread the Korean culture amongst Egyptians and Egyptian youth and education and language and all this. And all of us were almost the same age, and we were it was very amazing experience, but we had that gap between us and between the directors, because the directors that came through the years, not only one, I think about 3, all of them are very aged. They were very like old, and the Korean culture has that thing about very respective, very, very respected, that cannot even talk to, you cannot even touch. We couldn't even go through the lobby to have like a small cup of tea. It was that thing. And that leads us to that you cannot go and say that you have an idea and you want to do 1, 2, 3. We were youth, newly graduated, we had a lot of ideas. We wanted to do different things. We were on the floor, and also, you know, that the directors didn't know Egyptian language. So with Egyptian languages, you can interact with the youth, you can interact on the ground, you understand what the needs, what's missing, and you know what you can do for this and what you can newly implement in your projects to achieve the actual goal that you're working for. But we couldn't reach this, and we couldn't give these ideas to him because he thought in a very different way. It was very governmental, very strict, very traditional. So this is one of the experiences. And if I would like also to add one from my current experience at the World Health Organization. So I'm newly a new staff there, like only 7 months now. And it's very fast-paced environment. It's very important to be very connective with your team members, very fast and very careful with communication. Also, different cultures from different people all the time. You have to be very careful when you're dealing with them. But you notice, like, even people from your own culture, if you don't treat them in a very sensitive way, because of the environment, unfortunately, we had some colleague, a very respected one. She resigned because of the stress. She can't take it anymore. She said it was being bad for her health. From now. So it's very important to be very careful with your colleagues at home. So because I think this is, you know, it's very important, because finally it leads to SDG. If you worked well with your team, you're going to accomplish something. And if you accomplish something, you will be able to create partnerships with government, good governmental partnerships, which will interact in its way to achieving different SDGs. Yes, thank you so much.
Great point, thanks you.
Okay.